There's nothing that has greater impact on humanity and humanity's well-being than the heart center. The heart center is really an incredible thing. It doesn't look like it when you look at the body graph. It only has 4 gates, and only the head center has fewer. All of the other major centers, they have, anywhere from 8 or 9 or 11 gates. The heart center just has these 4 gates. And yet each and every one of these 4 gates have the potential of having an enormous impact on us, both physically and psychologically. I've talked a lot about the dilemma of the undefined heart center. It's in the heart center that we find willpower. And of course, the undefined heart center becomes a problem. 70% of humanity have undefined heart centers. And what they get stuck with, of course, is this sense that they're not good enough. And in that feeling of not being good enough, the assertion of themselves, making promises, committing themselves to doing things because they think that they'll impress others or they think that they'll be regarded differently. And of course, this open heart center becomes an enormous problem for beings in terms of the way in which the mind traps you and takes you away from what's possible for you. But there is another side to this, aside from the obvious of the way in which the not-self of the open heart works. It's about these 4 gates. When you think about the general problems that exist in a society, take the example of heart disease. In the heart center, the 21st gate, its association is with the heart muscle itself. The reality is that heart disease is one of the most common diseases in the world. And the reality is that that is all a byproduct of open heart centers simply not functioning correctly. If you have an undefined heart center and you make a promise and you put all your energy behind that promise, you're putting enormous stress on your heart muscle. You just are. And of course, the heart center itself is more than just the heart. If you go down to the 40th gate, deliverance, you get to the gate of the stomach. And of course, one of the universal dilemmas on this planet, something that is dealt with in primary health system and PHS, is that human beings do not eat correctly. And as a byproduct of that, we have all kinds of problems associated with digestion. And when we go to the 26th gate, we get to the gate of the thymus gland, dealing with the immune system itself and the potential of the immune system to be able to protect itself from disease and from all kinds of things that can interrupt the healthy well-being of the body. And in the 51st gate, we have the gallbladder. And when you think about this heart center, when you think about it as an open center in 70% of humanity who operate as not self, who are constantly placing that pressure on themselves because they feel that they are unworthy and trying to dig in for a willpower truly that is not there, that they're putting enormous stress on this system. And by the way, it is not just a matter of having an open heart center. Those that have a defined heart center and do not function correctly according to their strategy and authority are just as likely to have dilemmas of the heart, the stomach, the immune system, the gall, all of that. Because in fact, what it comes down to is whether you're going to operate correctly or not as a being in this life. Strategy and authority, the beauty of strategy and authority is that it begins with the form principle. It begins with the correctness of the body. When the body is correct, when the body is operating the way it should, then everything else falls into place naturally. If you have an undefined heart center, you're not here to prove anything to anyone. There is no need for those promises and for that sense of lack of self-worth. You are here, in essence, to be able to see who, in fact, can make such promises and keep them, but not to be lost in them, not to suffer because of that. You're here to operate correctly as yourself. If you follow your strategy and authority, your mind no longer has that power to control you, and no longer has the power through controlling the decisions that you make to distort those very aspects of your nature that are fundamental to you in terms of whether you're going to be healthy in this life or not. A life without health is not a life that is pleasant. And there is no need for us as nine-centered beings with the awareness that we have mechanically to live in unhealthy vehicles. Follow your strategy and authority. have a healthy heart.